November book haul. Now in the month of November I got a little more books than I should have, especially since next month is Christmas. But a lot of these are repurchases again because, as I said before, I'm trying to repurchase my Xanth books in hardcover. I had about half of the Xanth books before in the little mass market paperbacks that are this size. Sneak peek there. I really want them in the hardcover because a lot of the mass market paperbacks, they don't hold up very well, and I want to be able to reread these books several times because I've actually read the first few books a couple of times, and so I'm going for the hardcover because they look better on the shelf and they hold up better, so I'm going for the hardcovers and I'm replacing my paperbacks with hardcovers. Now, the paperbacks that I already had, I am actually giving those to my mom for her library for our family, and so I don't have those, so there's no use in asking if they can be sent because they're already at another home. So let's get started. I don't have these in any particular order, but I guess I will start with the Xanth books first. So the first book I'm going to show you is not actually a repurchase, and it's not in hardcover because at the time I purchased this I couldn't really find a good hardcover version, and I think I actually kind of want it in hardcover, which is sad because I just bought this. But I'm going to hold off and wait until I finish the series before I look into purchasing this in hardcover. Be responsible. And it is The Visual Guide to Xanth by Pure Xanth. And this is pretty much just a huge collection of information about Xanth and about characters. Sounds like fun. And on to the repurchased Xanth books. I'm not saying anything about what these are about because some of them I haven't read yet, and they're all further along in the series. They're not the first book in the series, and you have to read the series in order to be able to understand anything. So even if I told you what was in these books, you wouldn't understand unless you'd actually read the book. No spoilers. The first one is The Color of Her Panties. The first book is The Color of Her Panties. These are all by Piers Anthony. For one thing, that title is hilarious. I can't get over that. I've never been able to get over that, and I have not got far enough in the series to read this book yet, and every time I see that, it makes me laugh. And it's in pink. I don't know if you can really see that, but the font is pink, so that just makes it even more fun. The next book I have is Heaven Sent, Man from Mundania, Isle of You, and last is Question Quest. I still have 5 books in paperback that I haven't replaced yet, and I think I have roughly 20 books that I do not have. I now have the first 15 books in hardcover, so that makes me really happy. And I still need the remaining books, but like I said, I still think I'm missing like 20 books. So I'm just slowly accumulating them as I find them for a decent price. Now on to the next kind of repurchase. I was looking into getting some of the older versions of The Princess Bride, which is one of my favorite books. It's by William Goldman. Looking into getting the old versions of it, they are really expensive, like really, really crazy expensive. And I found a lot of 10 Princess Bride books on eBay for like 18 bucks. And I didn't need 10 books, so I went ahead and got it, of course. But I got it because I know my mom doesn't own it, and I know it's one of my sister's favorite books as well. We all love the movie, we all love the book. So I went ahead and bought it, even though I don't need 10 books of The Princess Bride. But I kept 4 of them for myself, so I guess that's something. I'm sending 3 copies to my sister, and I gave 2 to my mom. 1 for her personal shelf, and 1 for the family shelf at her house. And I'm giving 1 to a friend. So that's going to be exciting. But I'm going to show you the covers for them. They're all the same book, and they're all by William Goldman, but I'm going to show you the covers for it. First, I'm going to get the cover that I already had to show you, so I'm going to be right back. Okay, the cover that I already had, this one right here, and I got this for Christmas back in high school. So this is the version of the cover that I've always owned. And now for the 4 versions that I kept for myself out of the lot of 10 books. I have the one with the movie picture on it, and on the back of this is the most hilarious saying ever. And this is the whole synopsis that you get of the book. This is everything you get to explain what the book's about. What happens when the most beautiful girl in the world marries the handsomest prince in the world and he turns out to be a son of a bitch? That's all the description you get on these older books. And that is freaking hilarious. I love that. This next book has this cover on it, and it's all blue around the edges. And it has almost the same thing on the back, but it says, and he turns out to be, well, a lot less than the man of her dream. So it's a little nicer about it on this one. And this has the same on the back of it as the first book that I showed. It's pretty much the same cover, but the horse on the front, if you can see that, kind of sticks out over the edge of the fold, and it folds out, and there's a map, and like there's this hole where the horse's head is in that, and it just folds flat out and there's no hole anymore, and that is so cool. And the picture stuff. And this one is like a full-on, full-body shot of the actors in the movie, which I absolutely adore. So those are the 4 that I kept. I've already given my mom hers, and I'm shipping out the other 2 hopefully in the next week. That's all I have for The Princess Bride. I want like all the different copies of The Princess Bride because it's my favorite book of all time. But let's move on, because there's more books to show. Yes, keeping with the theme of the mass market paperback editions, this is one that I was supposed to show back in September or October. My mom bought this for me. It's The Martian by Andy Weir, and I told her I wanted to read the book before I watched the movie, and now the movie's out of theaters, so I have to wait until it comes out on DVD to watch it, so I have plenty of time to read the book before I watch the movie. But it got stuck in her bag whenever we left the store because she's the one that bought it, and we forgot to take it out, so it's been at her house and I haven't been over to visit for a while, so I finally got a chance to pick it up. The next mass market paperback, actually the last mass market paperback I have, is Odd Apocalypse by Dean Koontz, and this is part of the Odd Thomas series. I don't know where it goes in the series. I can't put the book upright because it's got an extra shiny cover, so I can't actually hold the book upright or it just glares right into the camera. But I've read the first 2 books in the Odd Thomas series and I love them, so I've been trying to get the remaining books in the series so I can finish up the series. And this is like one of the last books or the last book, I don't know which, but it's the taller mass market paperback. That's the same with this, it's the taller mass market paperback. If you have these next to like a regular mass market paperback, they're like half an inch taller. I don't get that. Why? I hate you. I hate your format. Just, sorry, I'm talking to my books. I love the books, but I hate the type. And I guess next I'm going to continue with like the repurchases that I had. The first one is The Giver by Lois Lowry, and I got this for like 50 cents at a used book place. But I'm trying to get the books in these covers. I have the second book, which has blue in the name, and I don't remember what it is. I found this for like 50 cents at a consignment shop, so I picked it up and I'm replacing my old cover that just has the old man on the front of the cover. It's a very bland cover, but this one is so cool and it matches the other one that I have, so I'm going to continue trying to get the books in these covers. And the other repurchases I actually didn't purchase. My boyfriend purchased for me because somebody stole these original books from me. Like, I had them and somebody stole them, so they are replacing books that were stolen. I do not have the books that they're being replaced. So yeah, I'm freaked out. If you follow me on Twitter, I kind of freaked out whenever I found out because somebody broke in and stole 3 books, and that was it. And I thought they stole my computer, but I found out my boyfriend, because he set it aside and I didn't know where he put it, and he never told me he moved it, so I thought that my computer was stolen too. But it was just 3 books, and I don't know why. They just stole 3 books. That's weird. But so the first 2 books go together, and they are If I and Where She Went, both by Gail Forman. And I had gotten to read the first one, and I haven't gotten to read the second one. The funny thing is, the copy that I had of Where She Went, like, I bought the original 2 copies, but the copy that I had of Where She Went, one of my friends bought me because I loaned her the book, and her little girl had colored in the face of the girl on the book. So she bought me a new one to replace it, and I don't know if she kept it or if she threw away the one that her daughter destroyed. The one that I had was a repurchase to replace a book, and now I had to get replacements because somebody stole them, and that makes me sad, but I'm glad that my boyfriend replaced them for me. I do have one more that he had to replace. That is The City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare, and I'm getting ready to read this series. I haven't read it yet, and I'm getting ready to read it, and somebody had stolen the last book in the series, and it made me so mad. Luckily, I was able to find a replacement, but these things are freaking expensive. Like, this particular book out of the series is the most expensive book in the series, and that's the one that they took. That makes me sad and mad and scared and angry and all kinds of things, because I had somebody break in my car and they had left the console open. Luckily they didn't leave the glove box open because it has a light in there and that would have killed my battery. So they were nice enough to close my glove box, but they left my console open. They left everything in there and stole the driver's manual for the car. That's all they stole out of it. I have like a car charger, and I have a cassette adapter so I can plug my phone into my stereo and listen to like Spotify and stuff. And I have a little dash mount, so whenever I'm using my GPS I can just have it on the dash and not have to keep looking at my phone, like keep holding my phone to look at my phone whenever I'm navigating. And none of that was touched. They just stole the driver's manual. What? Like, I don't get that. So I've been having some really weird break-ins around here lately. Moving on. Done with that rant. Ranting way too much in this video, I'm sorry. I found Shakespeare, A Study and Research Guide by David M. Bergerson. Sorry, there's no S. Bergeron? I have no idea. And this was also 50 cents at that same place. And I really like Shakespeare, and I saw this and it was 50 cents, and I was like, maybe this will help me enjoy Shakespeare a little more, because it's a study and research guide for Shakespeare. I think it kind of shows you how to break down Shakespeare, and I don't know if it's how to understand it a little more or what, but it was 50 cents, and I really enjoy Shakespeare, and anything that will help me enjoy it more, I'm willing to spend a couple quarters on. That's the first time I've ever seen this, so I never had a chance to look for it new before I found it used. I didn't even know it existed. And at that same place, I got this one for $1, and it is The Memory Keeper's Daughter by Kim Edwards. And I've been looking at this online and I wasn't sure if I really wanted it or not, so whenever I found it for $1 at a consignment shop, I was like, oh yeah, I'll pay $1 and I'll find out if I like it, and if I really like it I'll get a better version that's not creased and just the penguin edition with all the crunched corners and everything. So $1, figure out if I like it and then not feel bad about getting rid of it, or repurchase a better copy. Bags are gonna drive me insane. The next book I have, I actually read in November, so it's going to be on my November wrap-up, and that is Room by Emma Donoghue. And I'm putting it down because that messes with my lighting so bad. But this is written by the point of view of a 5-year-old boy. It's really intriguing. Him and his mother have lived in this one room for his entire life. It's all he remembers. And the story's written in his point of view. And spoiler, I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. So if you want to find out why I gave it that rating, you can go ahead and go to my November wrap-up. This is a very interesting book, and it has a very interesting feel to it. The premise is really creepy and intriguing, all kinds of stuff. The next book is Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen, and I love this movie, and I found it on Thrift Books for really cheap. It was actually really hard to get the hardcover because they were always out of stock of it. Deco edge pages. It's really short, so it's not on my December TBR, but if I get stuck and I want something quick to read, I might go ahead and pick this up. But if you've ever seen the movie Girl Interrupted, it was based on this book, and I love that movie, so I figured I'd pick up the book and check it out. Because usually the book is better than the movie, so yeah. The next book I got is By the Time You Read This, I'll Be Dead by Julianne Peters. And I haven't really heard much about this, but I looked it up like forever ago. I've been waiting to get this book for a long time. And whenever I looked it up, it was one of the recommendations on Amazon. It said, like, if you like this book, you'll like this book. And I looked into it and I was like, yeah, that does sound really interesting. So I had it on my wish list forever, and I finally got it, and now I don't remember what it's about. And on the back, it has this really weird thing. It says, 23 days and counting. Dear Mother, Father, Other. And it has like a little blank that they can like check mark a box, I guess. It says, there was nothing you could do to stop me because I'd already made up my mind. I've been suffering my whole life. You were too slow to notice. And it's got those lines on those. It says, I offed myself because my life sucks, the world sucks, you suck. And it's got lines by those too, so it's like a multiple choice question kind of thing. And it says, goodbye, Dalen. And this is also a very tiny book. It'll probably be a fast read as well. I need to find out more about this. I'm sure it's a book about suicide or attempted suicide or something like that. It may be morbid, but those kind of intrigue me. And I had a cousin who committed suicide this year, which is still very emotional for me. But I had this on my wish list for like 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now. You always ask yourself why and if I could have, and yeah, I'm done talking about it. The next book I have is By the Light of the Moon by Dean Koontz, and this sounds very intriguing. The description is very vague. There's this kid that runs into this guy that is a carrier, and he says, now you're a carrier too. I'm not sure if it's like a plague thing or like a contagious superhero thing, because it says that they can now do things that other people can't. But there's these dock with lights, candles on it, and they're floating, which is kind of weird. It's Dean Koontz, and it was $3.33. I don't know if you can read that, but it was $3.33 for a hardcover, and this is one of the Dean Koontz books that I don't own, and it sounded interesting, so yeah, it's mine now. And whenever I picked up that book, I also picked up The Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick, and this was only $1.99, and it is humongous. Oh, by the way, it's got that cool picture on it. It's like a pencil drawing under the front cover. It's got that. It looks so cool. And inside, somebody was using a quiz as a bookmark. So somewhere along the line, some kid had to read this in school, because this is a middle grade book. So some kid had to read this in school, and this was their quiz. I got a 3 out of 10, by the way, with 2 questions on it. I kept that, and that's what I used for my bookmark whenever I read this. That was pretty interesting. So it's got all these pictures in it. Picture. This was a really fast read, and it is about a young boy who works on clocks at a train station. I can't really say much more without giving stuff away, but there's all these drawings, like the drawings tell the story. Instead of saying that he's walking somewhere or he's going somewhere and describing like his travels to get to that place, it just has picture, 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 and then the next page is words, and then there'll be pictures again, and then like a page or 2 of words, and it's so cool. And this is also in my November wrap-up, so if you want to if you want to read, if you want to know a little bit more about this and about what I thought about it, then check out my November wrap-up, which should be up soon. And the last of the regular books that I have is Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I found this on sale, and I've been wanting to check out the series, but I have a lot of books, and I tend to buy a lot of books, so sometimes a little cheap whenever it comes to buying books, so I was waiting for this to go on sale so I can get it. That was kind of my excuse for being able to buy it, is because I found it on sale. I don't really know much about this, but I do know that it is a fantasy. There is a princess, a rebel, a sorceress, and an heir. I like fantasy, and everybody's raving about this, so I figured I'd give it a try since, like I said, I found it on sale. The next books I have, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of a run through on, because they're more of the books that are like 100 years old, so I'm just gonna what they are. Got The French Revolution, A History by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 1, and the cover has come off of this one. Then I have The French Revolution, A History by Thomas Carlyle, Volume 2, and then I have The Poetical Works of Percy Bysshe Shelley, Volume 2, Plays and Translations and Longer Poems. Then I have The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Importance of Being Earnest, The Ballad of Reading Gaol, and works other of, but I think it's supposed to be and other works of Oscar Wilde. Then I have Essays, First and Second Series by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this one's kind of falling apart too. And I have the essays of Michael Lord Monte, I'm not even sure how to, translated by John Florio, Volume 1. And I got all of those in the same lot, and they were really cheap, and the only one that I was really interested in was The Picture of Dorian Gray. So the other ones were kind of bonus ones. So, and the French Revolution ones, I was kind of interested in those. But the big one that I was wanting was The Picture of Dorian Gray. So it was cheap enough to get all of those just because I wanted that one book. These next ones I ordered back in October, but they came from the UK because these books were mainly published in the UK, so finding them actually in the US is kind of really cool and very rare because they were mainly published in the UK. There were some published in the US, but most of them were published in the UK. This is Modern Painters by John Ruskin in 5 volumes. This is volume 3, this is volume 5, and this is volume 4. Then I have Emma by Jane Austen, and it is actually missing that first page that has the pretty black swirls and everything on it. So I can't show you that. It's just Emma by Jane Austen. It's 15 Discourses Delivered in the Royal Academy by Sir Joshua Reynolds. It's Adam Beatty or Bede, or I'm not sure, by George Eliot. This one, the cover's really loose on. It's very interesting because one of the pages was a couple of the pages were miscut, so they're longer than the others and they're kind of sticking out the side of the book. That's weird. And this last book is also missing those pretty black pages, but it is Villette or Villette with introduction by May Sinclair, but it is by Charlotte Bronte. So I'm not lifting the old books and the new books. There's way too many of them. I definitely can't lift them. Here's the ones that were not repurchases though. Out of all those books, well, these are the ones that are not repurchases, and that's it. So even though I did buy a bunch of books, I think I did pretty good because I didn't get very many new books that I didn't already own, except for the old books. The old books, like there's exceptions for those, I guess, because they were like really cheap. That's all I have for this video, and I will see you in my November wrap-up and December TBR.